You know, there's a ton of them. You obviously, you're known as being a genius for marketing, for working with the press. What's it like for you now to work in that space as opposed to, say, 15, 20 years ago, where it was a much smaller crew of people that you're dealing with?
You really have to deal with, a lot of people, but, I enjoy it. I think it's spirited. I have, certainly people who know a lot about movies are always going to be my favorites because I spend the time in my business, even at the age of 100, I'm still watching new movies and I'm still watching a lot of old movies. And I'm always trying to educate myself and learn. And I'll repeat movies that I saw or didn't like, and I'll just say, why didn't I like that? So, if somebody's educated, they can have all my time as far as I'm concerned. And if they understand the grammar of movies, and I hope guys, whatever, you walk out feeling the same way. All the bombastic stuff that you read about me is complete bullshit. I was a 12-year-old kid who's got his eye poked out, went next door to the librarian and said, I can't go to school because I look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame with an eye patch. And I said, teach me to read. And I read 3 books a week. I still read 3 books a week. As Danny Weinstein, who works for me in No Relation, says, the only reason I read as much as I do is because I'm afraid Harvey's already read it. So, so that's where it comes from. Storytelling, man, literature. Whatever young filmmakers out there, you want literature? I'll give you the best literature in the world, public domain. Emma, Jane Austen's movie, make another remake. We did a good job. We could stand some improvement. Sense and Sensibility. Dead authors make fantastic sources of movies. And it's cheap for you guys.
I want to see if the audience has any questions for Mr. Weinstein.
It's Harvey.
Hi, Harvey.
Yes.
You're obviously very good at what you do. What qualities do you think that you have that make you so excellent?
I think the fact that my wife is a brilliant designer and an incredible dresser, love the fact that I was sloppy. And because I'm happy with her, it makes me do a better job. And I have to have my clothes laid out for me. That's the joke. That's the joke part. I think if you said an overall thing that you need in this business, I think understand the grammar of movies, understand the grammar of literature, and understand that tenacity sometimes has to rule the day. You have to hang in that ring and, like Rocky, get beat up a lot, whatever, but, at the end of the day, you win the fight.
One right there.
So many great independent films are being recognized by the Academy. Do you think that's going to be a trend moving forward, and does Sundance have something to do with that?
Well, I think Sundance definitely has something to do with it, and, years ago when I was, first starting in the business at Miramax, we saw all the studios used to do one thing. They used to have their movie, and everybody who worked for Columbia voted for the Columbia movie, and everybody at Paramount voted for the thing. And our philosophy was, how do we even the playing field? And, that was the distribution of video cassettes. By distributing, video directly to the Academy, people with conscience, and I think the Academy is filled with people with conscience. I have nothing but praise for the Academy. I get disappointed too, Amy Adams not getting for Big Eyes. I just went like, whoops, what did I do wrong? And it broke my heart because she worked so hard and is so good. But, then again, Marion Cotillard gets it, and then that movie is amazing, and that movie didn't get nominated. Those are that's what makes the game interesting. But, Sundance has had a remarkable effect, because it gives a platform to these movies that you can build upon all the way to the Oscars.
Gentleman right there in the glasses.
You've produced north of 300 films through all kinds of genres. Is there a specific genre that you particularly like or go after?
I think we produced, about 100, I don't know, whatever, but something in there, but we acquired a lot of movies too. No, I like all genres. I want to make a heist movie if anybody's got a good idea. Don't flood me at the end of the talk. But just go through it. I just want to, I've never made one of those. I loved Top Cappy when I was a kid. And, this business is an incredible business because, as I always try to send complimentary letters when I see something good. And when I was a kid, first starting at Miramax, the great film director Jules Dassin, who lived in Greece, used to correspond with me. And, write about what was good, what was bad. Sean Connery was another one, whatever, kid, that sucked, whatever. And it just helped me, always being mentored, whatever is so helpful. So I'm up for all genres. I don't think except when like David O. Russell is doing the movie, I don't think I've been the comedy king, whatever. I look back and I go, shit, I really suck at these comedies, but I'll figure it out one day.
The woman red hair and the white.
I have a true story feature film that public domain that I've been working on for 4 years with research and very controversial. But what do you suggest for us young filmmakers trying to get funding and always up against walls?
Write a script, and okay. And do you have an agent?
Yes, I do.
Then have your agent send it out, because we can't read a script unless it comes from a recognized agency or a law firm, because we get into trouble as signatories to the Writers Guild. So none of us can do that. It's like you say, here's a script. We can't do it. So just, but script, agent, you're big 2 steps ahead, and then, and then just make sure you have all the rights buttoned up. And, you'll get it out there. If it's good, it'll travel.
I wanted to, one of the questions, we solicited questions from Twitter and from our readers before this, and one of the things that came up over and over is something of variation in what you were saying in terms of like, what is the advice for young filmmakers? And, I know you were saying about, the tenacity and all that. Do you think it's, is there such a thing as a path for independent film, or is that kind of the point, is that everybody has to figure it out as they go along?
Well, I started in the concert business when I was 19. My father passed away early. I needed to make money. I used to go to one of my friends who helped us with the first investment. In the middle of his wedding, I couldn't wait for it to end because he promised me half the envelopes. So I mean, and the pizza maker and the candlestick maker and whatever, and you go and you raise money and you go through all the toughness of that, but it thickens your hide, and hopefully there's a return for them, and just that's the tenacity part, and then just being as creative as you possibly can, and loving movies and studying movies. If you study them, if you read about how scripts are done, William Goldman's Adventures in a Screen Trade, great piece of work, about our business. Thomas Schatz, Genius of the System, particularly strong because he shows all the studios, and how they work. And how each studio had its own imprint. Paramount would do like the Lubitsch musicals and comedies, and MGM was big star vehicles, and Warner Brothers was nowadays the sound of machine gun fire with Public Enemy and Little Caesar, and I'm a fugitive from a chain gang. So these identifiable stuff. Read about how they produce those movies. It's so relevant to what's going on today. So I think if you're armed with the knowledge, you just can't walk out and say, "Hi, I'm a producer." I mean, you got to, do it. I went to, I studied with Dr. O'Grady at the University of Buffalo. He's now head of the anthologies at, Harvard, the Harvard anthologies, and you just gotta, just afraid it's work. But if you think it's work, you're not cut out for the film business. I used to work and say, if this is work, I can't wait. Whatever. Plucking chickens at Merritt Farms, which I used to do when I was 16. That was work.
Being from Chicago, they keep saying the film industry is going to grow. Where do you see it in 3 to 5 years?
Well, I see China, and I mean, I think China will equal the domestic box office pretty soon. So it's a growing market. I hope Russia recovers because it was once a healthy market too. But today, you can make when I was starting out, you'd sell your movie to Thailand for $1,000 and be lucky to get it. Today, Thailand can gross $15 million on American film, and Malaysia can do more, and Indonesia can do more. And all of a sudden you say, here's Asia. It's like a good Western. There's always a twist and a turn, in the history of our business. Something comes along and, saves us at the last minute. Netflix, the fact that they're visionary and that their fondness for independent films. That's a company that's run by film lovers. So many of the companies that I deal with are corporate. Netflix, they just love movies. They talk to me about documentaries the way I would talk to film students. I mean, they blow me away. Hey, we're going to do this, and we're going to do the Nina Simone documentary. And it's in the same breath, with like saying, okay, well, we're going to do Crouching Tiger 2 for, TV and IMAX, which is a $50 million movie. So you just love that enthusiasm.
What about the recent move of Amazon? When they're going to be, they've hired Ted Hope. They're going to be making their own films. What do you think of that? Because Amazon at its core is a technology company. It's not it's not run as a creative company. The studios is a creative element, but it is a technology company first. How do you see them in the?
They've hired Ted Hope is creative. Roy Price is creative. They've hired some good people, to run it. And Reed Hastings at Netflix. Ted is the motor, and Cindy Holland is the motor on TV. They're the visionaries in terms of content. But Reed Hastings is as tech as it gets. What's amazing on The Imitation Game? We went to San Francisco for their Breakthrough Science Awards. I mean, it's that Tina Fey joke. George Clooney's wife is on the Syrian Commission. George Clooney's wife is making peace. George Clooney's wife is, at the United Nations, and George Clooney's getting the Lifetime Achievement Award. And at the Golden Globes, I thought that was the funniest line of the night. And we got there with The Imitation Game, and people like Reed and Mark Zuckerberg, they just looked at this, Turing. They knew more about it than we did. They knew the math. They watched the movie and said the math's accurate. I mean, that was a relief. I didn't even know there was math in the movie. But these guys are tech. I mean, finally, a movie with a computer genius as the hero. How better could it be for them, than this movie? And they all knew who he was. And one guy had 5 Enigma machines. The guy who used to work for Microsoft had 5 Enigma machines. It's crazy.
Woman right there.
That you picked up Fruitvale Station was incredibly important. I'm part of a movement to make a revolution in this country. And I'm just wondering how you thought about it now. In the 6 years since Oscar Grant was killed, the names keep piling up at the same time as people are starting to resist this and say, yeah, no, Black Lives Matter, we won't accept this.
Well, I always like to think that it's, one step at a time, unfortunately. But, it is one step at a time. I think Fruitvale Station raised a lot of consciousness about it. Then these things happen, and it's unforgivable that they do, but, it's just, these times are crazy. And, I've said it before, and I'm going to get 10,000 letters. And those letters are always the sweetest in the world. Mm-hmm. Dear Jew motherfucker, we hate your guts. And that's from the NRA. I mean, seriously, I had to have my family protected, when I told about this movie that I'm doing about an anti-NRA movie. I think more than anything, the one thing that evens the score quickly, get the guns off the street. Just get those guns off the street. It works in England, it works here. What's that? Well, I tell you what, if you take them away from the, so-called the suspects, then the police have a different attitude. You know what I'm saying? They're not as paranoid. That's what all the studies show in Japan, England, and everywhere else. It's the guns. So.
A gentleman right there in the gray shirt.
Can you give us some examples of when you found a movie or some work that you've done a success, really true to you, when it's not by other metrics like box office or by awards or anything else?
I think the movie that probably rings that bell more than anything else was I did a movie called The Crying Game, and it opened in England with a very polite campaign about the film. And there's this wonderful secret, as most of you know, in the middle of the movie. A big surprise, as they say. And I just said, wait a second. I talked to Neil Jordan. I said, describe the movie. And it was so secretive, the way he spoke, that like a bell rang in my head. And I said, we should just make this a mystery and just hide the mystery. And the whole campaign should be, don't tell the secret of The Crying Game. And Walter Isaacson, who wrote this brilliant book, The Innovators, always loves when I remind him that as the editor of Time magazine, he said, look, we're going to say exactly what happened in the movie on Friday. This is a tenacity test. And the movie was doing great business. And he said, we've all seen the movie. We've all seen the movie in screening rooms. I go, a lot of people don't have screening rooms, Walter. But I had till Sunday, because that's when they closed the issue, to figure out a way to get him not to write the secret. Everybody else cooperated. So I got Gallup, which was the biggest pollster at the time, at an exorbitant amount of money to do a poll of Time magazine readers, 1,000 Time magazine readers. 98% didn't want the secret revealed. And you walk in with the Gallup poll, and he said, okay, fuck it, he didn't do it. Because his whole thing was time readers need to know. Well, actually, time readers wanted to have fun with the game too. So you do that, you pull a move like that, that's that's marketing. And all these guys who think that, we slam their movies or stuff like that, Dana knows, they've never called, this is insane. We don't have to do that. We do stuff like that.
I have time for one more question. Yeah.
I'm a filmmaker turned film commissioner in Oklahoma, and I wonder how the incentives, like if sometimes in your shoes, if your creativity sort of gets outweighed by the fact that I can get a rebate in a certain state, the money versus it costs so much money to make.
Well, thank you for August Osage County. Every bit of that movie was filmed, where it happened. And, and because you guys were so good to us, you made it possible. In another scenario, it might not have been possible. So, hopefully we brought something to the table. And, it makes a difference, when you have film commissions that understand, the process of filmmaking. And my experience with Oklahoma was so good that I'd come back there in a second and recommend it to anybody. So you made a big difference in our lives.
And I think that's about all the time we have. Thank you so much for being here.